then Ranga next?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, done.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So good afternoon, friends, and welcome to RSDC's Live Talk, the second in its edition of RSDC Live Talk. It's such a pleasure to be here this afternoon in the midst of two of my very good friends and the stalwarts of the Indian rubber sector. Let me introduce them first to you. We have in our midst Mr. Neeraj Thakur, who is the past president of AIRIA, All India Rubber Industries Association. In fact, it was in the year 2012 to 14, and we had an opportunity to work together for AIRIA during those years. Neeraj is an engineering graduate with specialization in electronics from the Mumbai University and went on to do his MBA from the University of Connecticut in the US. He joined his father in the business in 2001. He's currently the director of Precision Rubber Industries Private Limited under their brand name Precitex. They are manufacturers of textile component aprons and coats, having worldwide acceptance and exports to more than 42 countries across the globe. They are one of the largest exporters of aprons and coats from India and have been winning these prestigious export awards year after year. As I said earlier that he was the past president of AIRA, currently the governing council member of Accent, a not-for-profit entrepreneur enriching organization led by Mr. Harish Mariwala. He is also the committee member of the MSME committee at IMC and an executive committee member of BIA. He also serves as the governing council member of IRMRA and as the chairman of the purchase committee as well. I still remember how in 2012, when he took over as the editor of the Rubber India magazine of AIRA, he just revamped it and made it into a world-class magazine. He's an active sports person pursuing squash, and he appreciates cigars and single malts as well. I'm sure he got a lot of opportunities during the lockdown to pursue his interest in single malts. The co-speaker for this afternoon is Mr. Jagdeep Rangar, currently the Senior Vice President of the All India Rubber Industries Association, the man who's sitting in the hot seat of AIRIA. He's an alumni of the Doon School of at Dehradun and did his graduation in economics from the Delhi University and MBA from FMS Delhi University. After spending around 18 years in various assignments, he set up Stock Rubber Products. It was in the year 1995, manufacturing and exporting of automotive rubber parts. The company has grown over the years and today has 4 manufacturing locations in India with exports to over 35 countries. He's been on the executive committee of ACMA, which is Auto Component Manufacturers Association, and currently heads the MSME and the supply chain committees of ACMA. He's an avid golfer, and I also know that he appreciates single malts as well. So, gentlemen, it's such a pleasure to have you with us this afternoon on the topic quick fixes for MSMEs. I don't know whether how many of us 2 months back thought that we would be in the situation today. I vividly remember on March 25th when the lockdown was announced. It was a 21-day lockdown, and what ran through my mind was that if we stay home secure for 21 days, we'll break the chain, and everything will be hunky dory, and we are back to normal again. Little did we realize that we are on a long haul. The uncertainty of the pandemic has made it more challenging as well. The reason I say challenging is plans have to constantly be changing and evolving. I don't think we can make plans for beyond a month or a two. Forget long term plans of a year, two, and three. The uncertainty has made that very challenging to be able to plan ahead and take decisions, which is why quick fixes or short term solutions have become the mandate for the day. What we need to do today and tomorrow and this week to ensure sustainability through this pandemic has gained so much of importance, and hence this topic today. We have two stalwarts, like I said, in our midst who have implemented many of the quick fix for their respective industries as well. Without taking further time, I'm sure all of you are keenly looking forward to taking these out of what they are going to say. So over to you, Neeraj. We'll start with you.
Sure. First of all, thanks, uh, Vinod, for such an elaborate introduction. I'm humbled and nice talking to you, brethren from the rubber industry. Um, when we talk about quick fixes, especially during these times, we can talk about multiple activities ranging from finance to customers to workers to raw materials. But I would today, in particular, like to touch upon two specific items, that I have in my mind. And having said that, uh, I don't intend to give any kind of gyan. There is no advising that I would like to do. I will talk purely from an experiential sharing perspective, what we have done or are planning to do, so that it can be more practical rather than, I mean, there's too much gyan out there. Two topics that I intend to touch today. One will be the workforce, which has become a very, very critical part of our organization, more critical than ever because of the migrant workers, issues with respect to layoff that a lot of us are considering, etc., etc. And the second will be being in touch with the customer, uh, or how do we handle the customer in these situations. Uh, Talking to begin with, I will talk about workforce. Few pointers or experience sharing, as I would again call it. I will compartmentalize into various platforms. First, to begin with, workers. A lot of us are saying migrant workers gone away, or will go away. Or what do we do? What we have done at our end is we have taken a very different approach. We are looking at employing locals. Now, depending on the state you are in or the town you are in, workers may not be available. They may not be suitable. They will not want to work. But what we captured here on is I have my factory in a place which is very highly coastal. So at this point of time, we are looking at having fishermen come in as workers. Uh, Very critical timing, because for fishermen, this is the time when they're completely off business. With rains coming in, for the next 3 or 4 months, there's not going to be any work for them. So we are trying to look capturing this as workforce. Now, again, the reason I say locals is because depends on the process that you are doing. For typically, let's say mixing as a process, for example, even migrant workers, when they go away for a month and a half. And, we are having a tough time negotiating with the quality of the compound that is made during this time. So our thought process is let's have locals permanently at these positions, whereby I cannot afford them to be away for a month also, because the consistency of my compound is of paramount importance. So these are critical positions that we feel at these times. So this is one thing that you can look at doing. Another thing we look at is reduction in cost in terms of reducing um commissions to our contractors. At the end of the day, they are also entrepreneurs. So we have done the other way around. We have increased our commissions to contractors. Forget the increasing pay to the workers anyways, which we need to. So that's another. So when you pay, and that is a more incentivized pay. The more the number of workers they get for us, the more pay commission they get. So that is something we put in place. Third thing, what we've done is, we a lot of us talk about laying off of a staff or maybe putting them on a furlough. Now, furlough is not really a legal thing in India yet, but we are looking at training staff when the growth comes back. So rather than just saying that we are going to lay them off, we are training them to be multiple skilled, recognizing the fact that some of our staff may be retiring maybe in a year or two. We are getting those people whom we think are possible to train for multiple skill. We are training them for those jobs. I'm not saying that, yes, we are looking at cutting down people. That also might need to be done if we really have excess fat within the organization. Yes, we will have to do that. Something else with respect to workforce we intend to do is a lot of automation. I know this is a cliched thing. Everybody talks about automation. But if I look at the journey of a typical entrepreneur, especially MSME sector, we have grown through the jugaad kind of framework wherein we innovated machines, we innovated processes at our end. Probably we could survive and grow to a certain extent with this. Maybe now that the businesses have grown, we may not be able to do any of this anymore, because businesses have grown and our involvement to that extent is not possible anymore. And maybe the people we have are not capable or not that passionate about doing the jugaad kind of system. So maybe it is time to standardize in terms of processes and systems whereby we are able to compete globally. Now, this has become very, very important because with more and more business coming into India, quality of products improving, the jugaad system, which you were passionate about, may not work anymore. And with the down the line people not willing to do that or they are not capable to do that, it is time that we bring in standardization in our products and processes. This will help with lesser dependency on labor and workforce, as well as improving the quality and consistency of products. So these are, and we are looking at now creating IT as the backbone of our business with respect to systems. So these are few initial thoughts I have, as far as the workforce is concerned. As far as the customers are concerned, most important will be to be in touch with them. Now, being in touch with them becomes much more challenging because we are not able to visit them. So, using social media to connect with them, video conferencing is something what we are doing. But more importantly, what do we do when we are in touch with them? That is more important. And what we are trying to do here is make the customer realize what is happening at my end. Two, one is empathize with you, not that he will help you in that anyway, but any innovations that we do, any new processes that we change, which are helping us improve our efficiency. This is what we communicate to the customer, whereby he can try and improve at his end. Another thing that we do with respect to customer communication is innovate products and inform him, which will reduce his dependency on product workers. Again, coming back to workforce, let's say we are looking at improving buffing cycles or grinding as a process, which improves the longevity of a product. When I do that, he doesn't need to depend on his workers. If the buffing cycle in my product was 60 days, if I take it to 90 days, his dependency on the operator goes down, and that is the kind of product I'm looking at innovating. So these are the kind of information sharing that we need to do with the customer, whereby he has more faith in that we are working for him at the end of the day, not just in terms of reducing cost or increasing the credit terms or, but sharing internal details. And that's where he really has his hopes on you as a long-term partner rather than just another vendor. So yeah, I would like to, this is some of the ice breaking that I would like to go with. At this point of time, that what we are doing at our end. I hope this helps.
Yeah, thank you, Neeraj. I'll come back to you with a few questions.
Sure.
Over to Ranga.
Thanks, Vinod. First of all, thank you for the introduction, and I'd like to thank you, Meghna, Shivani, and Deepmala for having me on this program. The topic, quick fixes for MSMEs. Now, I would like to debate this a little bit. Are there any quick fixes that really exist? Let me, give you a little bit of data here, and then we can talk about what are the options and the problems that are being faced today. We have close to 11,56,000 registered MSMEs in the country, and there are stated to be approximately another 63 million unregistered entities, which are mostly micro units. That means where the owner himself is the one who's doing the work, or at best, he employs 2 or 3 people. Of this, just about 20% are manufacturing units. The rest are in trading, services, or in some rural activities, construction, etc. Now, just yesterday, the MSME definition has been changed again, or rather revised again. And now the medium sector turnover has been enhanced to take it up to 250 crores. This will mean we will have a lot many more MSMEs in the fold or under this program. Now, considering that we employ over 12 crore people and account for 30% of India's GDP and almost 50% of the export of product and services, this is a very, very important sector of the economy. This pandemic coming on top of a slowdown which we were already experiencing over the last 14, 15 months has caused a lot of problems for the MSMEs, and more so for the small and micro units. We are faced with a situation of low liquidity, problems of the workforce, and the biggest and most worrying is the demand uncertainty today. In the rubber sector, we have almost 5,000 manufacturing units, and these are mainly in the micro and small sector, a few in the medium, and a handful which could be considered to be in the larger sector. This is non-tire that I'm talking about. Now, in this situation, naturally industry looks to government for support, because as it is the small units and primarily the rubber sector where we are dominated by small and micro units, it's literally a day-to-day existence. So the support that we're looking for from the government and what the government has offered is basically to support the liquidity and the cash flow in terms of loans, collateral-free loans, subordinate debt for stressed assets. They've created a fund of funds to subscribe to the equity of the larger companies in this sector. And of course, as I just mentioned, the government has gone ahead and adhered to a long-standing industry demand of addressing the nomenclature and classification of the industries. These are measures, no doubt, which will help in enhancing the liquidity. But in this time, are the MSMEs in a situation to take on more debt? Do the micro and small units really have the appetite for debt? That is number one. And number two is the disbursement of these facilities that have been announced by the government. How will they reach the most needy or the most required of the industry? What was actually more apt at this stage was a direct infusion of cash into the industry, and more importantly, into the hands of the workforce. One of the challenges I spelled out a few seconds ago was about the workforce. Now, a lot of the workforce has migrated because almost 70% of the micro and small industries did not have money to pay even the wages for March. Forget about April and when they restart operations, which many have done in the month of May, and many have not been able to restart at all. So this was what was required, and this would have not only kept the workforce active and secure, it would have also been a demand generator because they would have had a continuity of availability of funds. Neeraj has spoken about the workforce. We are all reading about the mass exodus of people going back to their villages. In many cases, the pathetic conditions in which they have gone back. Now, uh, these people came from their villages seeking a better life. And in many cases, to an extent, they did achieve a better source of income and a ability to maintain their families in a better standard than they were. But these last 3 months have perhaps brought out a face which um, has, sort of shocked them, and the treatment that they have received, it's going to be a while before they forget the distress and anguish that they have suffered and will run back to the jobs. They will come back, no doubt. How soon is the question mark? There is the sowing season which is coming up. Typically, in the months of June and July, we do face labor shortages because people do go home and then they go back again during the festive season around Diwali. So, will we get these people back in July, August, or will we get them back only after Diwali? And what conditions will they come back with, and what will be their needs when they come back? These are the challenges that we will really need to be able to address. Now, we no doubt low cost automation, as Neeraj has also suggested, is something which industry needs to look at going forward, because this is required not just to tackle the manpower shortage that we are going to undoubtedly face, but it's also required to be more competitive going forward and to scale up our operations in the least possible capex. Now, MSMEs, by the very nature of their structure and character, are very agile. These are all owner-driven entities, quick to adapt to changes. And if you take the MSMEs operating, even the small and micro units operating in the textile sector, a lot of them have been very quick to adapt and move into the PPE segment, something which was non-existent 3 months ago. They have gone into that, and they have found an avenue and an opportunity which they have been able to quickly mold themselves into. Ventilators is another area where MSMEs have managed to form clusters to start making components for ventilators. And it's been a collaborative and a collective approach. I was talking to somebody I know in Bangalore earlier today, and he says that, it took us a week in the lockdown for us to restart. And he says today we are producing and we are back at full capacity because they went into the ventilator space and they are supplying people who are assembling components and making ventilators throughout the country. So this is, where MSMEs are very resilient and have the ability to uh, encash on opportunities which come their way. Also, another thing is what All India Rubber Industries Association has been doing for its members through this lockdown and this period of pandemic. We have at IRA conducted a number of seminars, webinars, I should say, where we have addressed the issues which, like you said, the quick fix. One of the quickest fixes and the most urgent need today is cash flow. Today, it's not about profits. It's about ensuring, positive cash flow. So we have had webinars where we have tried to impart knowledge to our members and even other industry people who have joined the webinars as to how you can manage your cash flow and how you can look at ensuring a positive cash flow, because that is the only thing that will ensure your survival over the next couple of months. The pandemic is here to stay. And, the social distancing, wearing of masks, sanitizing the workplace, these are all now the new normal. These are things we have to do and we have to ensure it. Till a vaccine is developed or a herd immunity emerges, we are not going to get away from the problems caused by the virus. We also did webinars on, in fact, we did 2 webinars on the workforce. One was about the workforce and how to try and hold them back. And the second was on the people who've gone back, how to try and bring them back. In the second instance where people have gone and you want to bring them back, now imagine the psychological mindset of the person who has had to walk 1,000 kilometers to reach his home, or who has had to bear police lathis on the way, or hitch rides on trucks, or virtually spend all the money he had just to reach home and spend many nights hungry. Imagine the mental psyche of this person. So they will look for financial security, they will look for mental security, and they will look for physical security when they want to come back. Mental security in terms of a place to stay, a surety that the employer will look after their needs and they will not be thrown on the roadside again. Their financial security by ensuring that they are paid their wages on time, they are given their just allowances, etc., and no shortcuts there. And physical security in terms of their health. If they are coming to work in the factories or they are coming back to the cities, they want to be reasonably sure that they will not be victims of this virus. If they are, they want to be sure that there is a medical system which can look after them, or their employers will help them to receive the desired aid. We can also help members, like I mentioned, about the ventilators. Companies went into a cluster approach where they collectively, each one making a component and providing it to an assembler or a bigger company to produce the ventilator. Similarly, the time has come when we need to pool resources. And I'm sure at IRA, we can help our members achieve some degree of collaborative approach. I give an example. We always go to exhibitions overseas, or Neeraj exports a lot. You do too, so do I. Now, when you go overseas, you find China or Taiwan or Korea, you'll find all of them usually in one place. The Chinese exhibitors will be in one location. The Taiwanese will be together in another. The Koreans will be together in another. And they all, one thing you will notice is they all exchange notes right through the period of the exhibition. Unfortunately, we tend to be individualistic in our approach, and many a time this causes us to lose out. We need to see how we can pool resources. Maybe one person does aluminum pressure die casting, another is doing stamping, a third is doing rubber mixing, and we all collaborate, and we get the economies of scale by doing so, and we are competitive in the overseas markets. Today, exports is an area which we need to look at very closely. There is a huge anti-China sentiment out there. People are, really looking at alternatives. It's not a quick fix. It's not going to happen tomorrow morning. But the window of opportunity is also quite narrow. So we need to look at this, and we need to see what we can do to take advantage of the situation. Here also, the association has been very proactive. We've organized reverse buyer seller meets. We've had 2, one in Chennai, the other in Mumbai, where with the help of the government, a number of overseas buyers were brought in with the intention of exposing them to our members and to the industry to let them see our capabilities, showcase our product variety with the view to boost exports. A third was planned, unfortunately, on the 23rd of March, which was the day, just a day before the whole country locked down. So that had to be cancelled because flights, everything were cancelled. But there are opportunities for us to look at doing this on a virtual basis. Travel, international travel may be a no-no for the immediate future for the next couple of months. But certainly the association can help its members by organizing maybe a virtual buyer-seller meet or things like that. So this is one area where we need to look at. The other one, of course, is the Indian Rubber Expo that we organize. It's a huge event, one of the biggest in the world in the rubber industry, where the strength of the Indian rubber industry is showcased right from the raw materials to the finished product, to the machinery, to test equipment, everything. So the other one last point I would like to bring out here is as I mentioned, the physical safety of the workplace. Government has issued many SOPs and they have many requirements to prevent the spread of the virus. Opening the plants is one issue, but keeping them open is more important. You don't want a situation where today you open your plant and a week later, God forbid, one of your employees tests positive and you have to shut down. We, like most companies that I know of, we have a system where every single person is screened before he enters. They are made to sanitize their hands. They are made to, we ensure that everybody has a mask on before he steps inside our premises. The entire premises is sanitized twice every shift. Any vehicle entering the premises is first sanitized before it's allowed to enter our gate. We do not allow visitors to come into our plant. Anybody who wants to have a meeting can do so by video. If it's very urgent, somebody shows up at the gate. Unfortunately, the meeting is held at the gate. We don't allow people into our conference rooms and meeting rooms. These are, safeguards we are taking. The other thing we have done to ensure and give security to our workforce is that we have not laid off anyone. Not single person has been laid off, whether they are temporary workers or they are on our roll. We have worked around a system whereby every single person gets a certain minimum working days every month, so that, and they have been told that the situation that we are going through, the business scenario, as well as the the economic environment, and by and large, everybody has been more than happy to come forward and say, I don't have a problem. Even if you give me 10 days of work, I'm happy to come to work, as long as his basic requirements are being taken care of, and we are ensuring that. So I think I perhaps overstate my time here, Vinod, but I think these are the points I wanted to bring forth, and I hope they help people who are listening in on this webinar. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rangar and Neeraj. A few quick questions. We are not able to answer all the questions that have come in, but Neeraj, to you, just a quick insight into what is the situation with regards to availability of raw material. What kind of issues are you facing, if at all?
So, Vinod, it's too early for that. I'll tell you what, we started probably since at the most a month, right? Most of us. Right now, as far as imported raw materials are concerned, is, rubbers are there in stock because the demand is not there. Larger challenges is not what, and certain raw materials, even your vendors are going to be very strict with respect to payments because unless you pay, they're not going to ship out anymore. So, that is going to be a situation, but challenge is not good, not what is we are facing now, because people have been sitting on stocks and the demand is there. So right now it might not be a problem, but in future it might be. So you will have to find out which are your critical customers, which you cannot do with maybe monopolistic suppliers, and what will happen if their plants close. What if there is a COVID situation as there at their end? That is something you will have to preempt. Another thing you might have to preempt is the distance and the lead time between certain raw materials, which are not locally available and you are going to have to import, or the plants are farther away, especially plants being in containment areas or red hot zones. So these are situations probably we need to keep in mind to stock those raw materials. Yeah, that I hope that helps. So
A better
this is something
planning.
what we are also doing.
Yeah, a better planning in terms of raw material.
Yes.
Yeah, and Ranga, just this question to you, since you have plants in different locations, right? With the movement of migrant workers back to their respective states, uh, is it running in your mind that is it right time to relocate the locations to where the migrant force is available? Or you feel that at some point they will come back, so we stay put where we are?
Uh, this is something which actually hasn't crossed our mind at all. Um, you see, relocating plants to where the migrants come from, uh, to the states further east in the country, is not really. I don't feel it's an option at this point in time. Uh, the reason being that our plants are located where they are because this is where the customers are. If you have a plant in Chennai, it's because we need to be in proximity to our customers. Um, if we have a plant in Gurgaon, the same applies. So, relocating the plants to the areas from where the migrants come from, I don't believe is a viable option. Again, we don't know the work environment in that area. Yes, the workers have gone there, so maybe that is one aspect which may be easy. But what is the availability of raw materials? How far are we from our customers? The additional cost of transporting raw materials to those locations and transporting finished goods from there to the consuming centers or to the ports. So, these are all questions which will determine if there is any movement of infrastructure or manufacturing locations to those areas, to Bihar or to Orissa or to Kolkata or UP for that matter.
And moreover, the states where the migrant workers are coming from are not highly industrialized as well. So it's quite challenging to, I think, to set up in those states.
Yeah.
I get your point, yeah. Neeraj, you spoke of automation, right? How feasible is it at this point of time? Plus, even, the other issue that we face today is with regards to workforce, we are down to 33% or 50%. We are only limited to using 33 and 50%, which means many of the key areas in the departments don't have the skilled people. So how are you going to crisscross and match up the existing workforce?
So I'll answer your question in two parts. First of all, how feasible the automation is. So first of all, as I was mentioning earlier, we need to get out of this jugaad system. We need to standardize, and as Mr. Rangar also touched upon it, it is not only to automate and to reduce your dependency on manpower, but what also automation brings in is consistency in quality. Now, this is very, very important. So probably we need to figure out where in the value chain does a product lie for a particular manufacturer. And automation is from both those perspectives, one, to replace your manpower, and secondly, to have a consistent quality of product. Of course, we need to add to that productivity and volumes also will completely depend on the automation that you bring in. So, going ahead, as again Mr. Rangar was talking about, with lower dependency on China, and if India is to become a hub, to each his own, let's say, for example, in pots and aprons, if I say that, yes, we want to compete big time with China in terms of price, quality, we are already ahead, but we need to bring in volumes, then I see no other way to go ahead but automation. Having said that, your second question was about manpower. So I already touched upon this in terms of staff, that we need to multi-skill the staff, because with older people retiring, or in future, in near future, we need to multi-skill the staff to do those work. I wouldn't want to lay off anyone in my staff, because they're already used to my culture of working. And trust me, culture of working is a very important thing. It takes a long time to build that kind of culture. Having said that, coming back to your original question of workers, we need to multi-skill the workers also. Now, depending on process to process, whether they go to RSDC with respect to skilling for a specific, operation, mixing or calendaring or refining or molding, uh, we need to cross-train workers, and that is imperative, because uh, gone are those days where we could afford a migrant worker going away for a month. Forget now this situation; they might go away for months. But in future, a variation in quality for that even 1 month, when the migrant worker goes away to his hometown during the sowing season or a wedding season, we can't afford that anymore. That variation in quality is going to cost us heavy. So we really need to look at consistency for processes which cannot be automated. And for that, there is no other option. And that's the reason I brought this up. That get locals. If not migrant workers, get locals. Be dependent on them. They are available. Maybe their productivity is not high enough, but what is much more important is the quality of a product when you manufacture. So yes, the role of RSDC, unfortunately, I'm getting back to you and this, but the role of RSDC in such times becomes even more critical. And it becomes imperative for manufacturers to depend on these, sources and tools to skill their workforce.
I totally
So
agree with
yes,
you. I
we need
think
to do that. Yeah.
training has become the most important. If you see over the last few years, I think we are at a moment where training has taken the top position now. A final
I'll
question.
just add to
Yeah, sure.
this. So not only do we do training externally, but we do internal training as well. So not only going to, so we have our senior supervisors do a video conferencing training activity during these times to impart knowledge, because people are sitting free anyways. We are going to pay them wages, right?
That's right.
So we have internal Zoom calls and video conference calls to train our staff. So that is something people should look at.
Yeah, very good. Rangan, a final question to you. Although I would like to ask, where do you see us in 1 year's time? But I'm going to revise that question to where do you see us in 2 months' time?
I think 2 months time is a very very tight time frame to consider any significant change or improvement. Number one, in our country, we still do not have any clarity about movement and lockdowns. This is a big issue because uh, we are in Gurgaon. On Friday, the Haryana government had sealed the borders with Delhi. Now, Delhi, Noida, Gurgaon, this is like one contiguous region. People live somewhere, work somewhere. There's a lot of intermovement of material and manpower and people between these areas. Now, when the government eased and we went into unlock 1.0, suddenly on Monday morning, the Delhi government sealed the borders. So you see, if this kind of back and forth carries on, you don't know where you stand. And all it does is it gives conflicting signals. Today, what a need of the hour is to bring demand back into the system. Yes, there is no question that that steps have to be taken to control the spread of the virus. But we are seeing that we came through almost 60 days of very strict lockdown, and now there's a spike and a very sharp spike in the cases. This tells us that the virus is something which is not, we can't wish it away. We have to follow the norms, but we still have to carry on with what needs to be done to get the economy back on track. If we don't, today maybe 25 to 30% of the MSMEs are facing distress and may never be able to restart. If this carries on longer, the number could exponentially rise. I don't want to be, a pessimist here, because I'm not a pessimist by nature, but the reality is staring us in the face. Even relatively healthier companies are finding it difficult to continue. May has again been a month of very low, very, very low revenues. The auto sector, of course, is in very bad shape right now. The demand has been published in the papers. Everybody can see how many vehicles were sold, how many two-wheelers, how many CVs, how many passenger cars. But 2 months, I don't see much happening.
Change.
But on the same tone, I must say that there is a slight sort of a mushrooming or a slight buoyancy one is seeing in global markets. With Europe opening up, we are having customers get in touch to talk about deliveries, to talk about new orders. So there is a buoyancy there. But I think July is too soon to see much of a improvement. We probably have a 20-30% better situation than we have right now. We had in the month of May, but it will not be a significant improvement.
Okay.
My feeling is that we are looking at the latter part of 21 to see some significant demand coming back into the system.
Thank you so much. I think we will leave it at that optimistic note. Gentlemen, we are terribly running out of time. Whatever questions are left, I'll request RSTC office to email it to you so we can get your suitable replies and send it to the viewers as well. So thank you both once again. Such a pleasure to be able to spend this time with you and share valuable inputs. It's such a lovely learning, and I'm sure all our viewers have gained a lot out of it. Thank you once again, and thanks to all the viewers who are part of this session. Look forward to more in the future. Thank you once again, and a very good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod. All the best. Thank you.
you.
Thank you, Rangaji. All the
Thank
best.
you.
Take
Bye.
care.